If you've spent any time in the modern wellness or self-help space, you know the feeling. You pick up a new book, try a new morning routine, or start a new practice, and for a few days, you feel like you've finally cracked the code. You feel good, but then life happens. A tough week at work, a bump in a relationship, or just a bad mood. And suddenly you're right back where you started. So what do? We buy the next book. We sign up for the next seminar. We search for the next practice to fix the pieces of ourselves that still feel broken. It becomes a revolving door, an eternal project of self-improvement, where you are both the doctor and the patient. You're constantly measuring yourself, optimizing yourself, and trying to fix a version of you that never quite feels complete. And if you're like a lot of people who get tired of that rat race, you eventually stumble into spiritual spaces, maybe non-duality or Advaita. You hear phrases like, "You are already complete," or "There is nothing to fix." It sounds like relief. But then you pick up a foundational text like the Bhagavad Gita, and what do you find? Chapters full of guidelines, instructions on mastering your mind, practicing discipline, and acting without desire. And immediately, that old feeling creeps back in. Great. Now I have to change myself to fit these spiritual guidelines too. So today, I want to break down why that happens, and explain the real difference between the endless trap of self-help and what traditional non-duality is actually pointing to. To understand why spiritual practices can end up feeling like just another project, we have to look at the starting premise of both worlds. In modern self-help, the starting premise is always, you are broken or incomplete right now, but if you work hard enough, you will become whole in the future. It's a linear equation. You start at point A, which is flawed, do a bunch of work, and hopefully arrive at point B, which is fixed. Notice what that does. It keeps your sense of wholeness permanently stuck in the future. It tells you that peace is something you have to earn or build. Traditional non-duality, or Advaita Vedanta, starts from the exact opposite premise. You are already the changeless, whole awareness behind it all. Right now. Nothing needs to be added to you, and nothing can be taken away. So if that's true, why does the Bhagavad Gita give us so many practices and guidelines? If you're already whole, why do anything? Here's the key distinction. The practices aren't meant to build a better you. They are designed to clear the windshield so you can actually see clearly. Think of it like a pair of dusty glasses. The world outside isn't broken, and your eyes aren't broken. But because the lenses are covered in dust and smudges, everything looks blurry and chaotic. The practices in traditional traditions aren't meant to fix your eyes. They are simply the rag you use to wipe off the dust, the mental conditioning, the constant reactivity, and the habit of identifying with every passing thought. This brings us to a huge mistake a lot of modern spiritual seekers make, which causes a ton of confusion. In traditional non-duality, teachers always recognize that we have to hold two levels of reality at the same time. First, there is the absolute level. This is the ultimate truth. You are pure awareness, untouched by time, birth, death, or change. At this level, there is no doer, no project, and nothing to fix. Second, there is the transactional level. This is the everyday world. You have a body, a personality, a family, a job, and responsibilities. In this world, actions have consequences, ethics matter, and your mind experiences ups and downs. The self-help trap fails because it lives entirely in the transactional world, pretending that if you just rearrange your external life or thoughts enough, you'll find absolute peace. On the flip side, modern pop non-duality, often called neo-Advaita, fails because it uses absolute language to ignore the real world. It says things like, everything is an illusion, there is no self, so nothing matters. It lets people use spirituality to hide from their lives, their relationships, and their duties. The Bhagavad Gita does something brilliant. It bridges these two worlds together through karma yoga, the yoga of action. When Krishna talks to Arjuna on the battlefield, Arjuna is overwhelmed. He wants to run away, throw down his weapons, and avoid his duty. Krishna doesn't tell him, "Hey, don't worry, it's all an illusion anyway." Instead, Krishna gives him the core principle of karma yoga. You have a right to your actions, but never to the fruits of your actions. What does that actually mean in plain English? It means your job is to show up, do your duty, and act with integrity in the present moment, without obsessing over or trying to control the result. So, why does reading these ancient guidelines still feel like trying to fit into a mold? It really comes down to who is reading the book. When the ego reads the guidelines, it reads spiritual texts through the lens of a project. It turns the teachings into a performance test. The ego says, "Okay, I need to become a desireless, perfectly calm, enlightened person so I can finally feel good about myself." Suddenly, spiritual practices become another standard to fail at. You're back on the treadmill. When the true self or clear awareness reads the guidelines, you don't see a set of rules to measure your worth. You see a user manual for your mind. The self looks at those guidelines and says, "These aren't demands to change who I am. They are practical pointers showing me where I'm leaking energy." When Krishna tells Arjuna to practice self-control or act without attachment, he isn't asking Arjuna to force a fake emotion or pretend he doesn't care. He's simply pointing out, look at how much you suffer when you try to control things you can't control. The ego sees a rule to follow so it can gain spiritual status. The self sees a mirror showing where the mind is caught, so it can simply drop the unnecessary weight. If we break down the difference, it really comes down to this. When the ego reads the guidelines, its goal is to modify your mind and life so you can achieve enlightenment sometime in the future. But when awareness reads them, the goal is simply to recognize the quiet presence that's already whole right now. The ego views itself as a flawed project that constantly needs to be polished and fixed. Awareness simply sees the ego as a temporary instrument to be used responsibly. To the ego, action is something you do to build a spiritual identity or get validation. But to awareness, action is just your natural duty, your dharma, done without obsessing over the outcome. When the ego looks at spiritual guidelines, it feels like a restrictive mold you have to force yourself into. But when awareness looks at them, it sees diagnostic tools that help clear out unnecessary mental noise. And finally, following the ego's way leads to constant self-monitoring, anxiety, and spiritual burnout. Following the non-dual way leads to lasting clarity, ease, and genuine freedom from self-obsession. At the end of the day, the shift from self-help to true non-duality isn't about doing fewer things or throwing away self-discipline. It's about changing the foundation under your feet. Self-help keeps you running on a treadmill, trying to reach a future version of yourself that finally feels whole. Traditional non-duality asks you to stop running for a second, take a look at where you're standing, and realize that the awareness observing the messy, imperfect human life you live is already completely whole. When you practice from that place, discipline isn't punishment. Changing your habits isn't a desperate attempt to fix your worth. It's just taking care of the instrument, your mind and body, so you can live in the world with clarity, strength, and genuine care for the people around you. You don't need to fit yourself into a spiritual mold. You just need to see what's already here when you stop trying to fix what was never broken.